What drives us to follow characters into danger and out again? What compels us to steel ourselves in the face of opposition? To laugh, cry, tremble in fear, or bask in the elation of triumph? And why, of all characters, do we so often come back to the humble hobbit? When it comes to the fantasy genre, few stories are as iconic as J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. It's a tale that has held universal appeal for generations, drawing in both kids and adults alike. But why is this? In short, it's the timeless structure that gives Bilbo Baggins his timeless depth and appeal. Greetings all, my name is Tom Laspisa and I'm the author of the Agra Saga, and welcome to Mythmaker. If you're seeking new inspiration to plot or outline your story, then stick around and I'll break down how The Hobbit perfectly encompasses the hero's journey so you can have a clearer view of how this invaluable tool can help you write a timeless tale of your own. But first, let's start with the basics. What is the hero's journey and why should you care? The hero's journey, or monomyth, is a storytelling structure that traces a hero's arc from their familiar world into an unknown one and back again, causing them to return as a transformed person. Originally, this journey was laid out in 17 steps by Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and drew inspiration from Jungian psychology and anthropology across cultures. However, it was later simplified to 12 stages by Christopher Vogler, making it a powerful tool for any writer. Here's a quick look at those stages. The ordinary world. We begin with the ordinary world, a place where our hero calls home and the calm before the storm. Christopher Vogler describes this stage as the hero's home, the safe haven upon which the special world and the journey's outcome must be compared. In The Hobbit, this is Bilbo's cozy hobbit hole in the Shire, where he lives in quiet contentment, enjoying good food, warm fires, and his beloved routines. Bilbo embodies the typical hobbit and is an everyman character. He's comfortable, predictable, and he's not exactly looking for an adventure. But that's what makes this stage powerful later on. By contrasting Bilbo's comfort with the chaos he'll soon encounter, Tolkien underscores just how far Bilbo will go, and how much he'll grow. Bilbo's home is the embodiment of the safe, ordinary world that many of us have, a place we might also hesitate to leave behind. The hero's journey itself is about abandoning comfort for the opportunity at true greatness. In Bilbo's case, it's about realizing that there's more to him than even he knows. And for us, it's a reminder that sometimes stepping outside the ordinary is the only way to discover who we really are. The call to adventure. At this stage, the journey is set in motion by disrupting the comfort of the hero in his or her ordinary world. A challenge or quest is presented, often by a herald character. Now, with Bilbo's comfortable life firmly established, we arrive at the call to adventure, that moment when everything begins to change. This stage disrupts the hero's ordinary world with a new quest or challenge that shakes up their routine and invites them into the unknown, usually with a quest or challenge involved. In The Hobbit, this call literally arrives on Bilbo's doorstep in the form of Gandalf, who appears and offers him rather plainly the chance to go on a quest. The call to adventure is one of the most important stages in the hero's journey because it's the moment that tests the hero's readiness for change. In real life too, these calls often come disguised as unexpected events, challenges, or opportunities that force us to choose between the shadow of comfort or stepping forward to achieve true greatness. Refusal of the call. The call to adventure drudges up fears and insecurities in the hero, and so at this stage they refuse. The hero may wish to remain in the safe haven of the ordinary world, as the special world beyond the horizon poses potential risks and outcomes of both failure and success. The idea of leaving the comforts of his hobbit hole is too much for Bilbo. Braving strange lands and facing dangers beyond his imagination feels absurd to him. His several refusals are the moments he confronts his own limitations, insecurities, and fears. Gandalf's invitation is tempting yet daunting, and Bilbo's reaction says it all. He is immediately reluctant. After all, he's a hobbit, and they are plain and quiet folk, and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner. Such things don't fit into his life of cozy tea breaks and peaceful evenings. But that's exactly the point of the initial call. It's meant to push him beyond what he thinks he's capable of. Even after the dwarves arrive and fill his home with talk of treasure, dragons, and distant lands, Bilbo still clings to the idea that adventuring is not for him. He loves his books, fine dishes, and linens, and he even feels a sense of relief when he thinks the dwarves have left him behind. But his refusal serves a purpose beyond reluctance. It deepens his character and shows us his hobbit-like humanity and vulnerability. And it's this hesitation that makes his eventual transformation all the more rewarding. Meeting the Mentor. At this stage, the hero encounters a mentor figure who bestows wisdom, confidence, advice, training, and/or special gifts or boons to assist him in overcoming the trials that lie ahead. Gandalf is unmistakably that mentor. He arrives to offer Bilbo advice and rather forcefully nudge him in the right direction, but at the same time he becomes the force of destiny that bridges Bilbo's ordinary life with the extraordinary journey ahead. We may wonder why Gandalf seems to zero in on Bilbo, why he cares about the tiny hobbit, and why he is so adamant about Bilbo having this particular adventure. It's important to note here that Gandalf is an angel, or a Maiar sent by God himself to aid the peoples of Middle-earth against the powers of evil. Though his task is a bit covert at this point in the timeline, nonetheless Gandalf is following a divine order, and Bilbo is called to be the first great force for a greater good. Gandalf's role is to open Bilbo's eyes to the potential he has buried within himself, and to achieve that potential for the benefit of the world. This stage is rich with encouragement and the first glimmers of Bilbo's latent courage, as Gandalf reminds both the dwarves and him,
"If I say he is a burglar he is, or will be when the time comes. There is a lot more in him than you guess, and a deal more than he has any idea of himself."
In a practical sense, Gandalf also provides crucial tools to help the company. By giving them the map and key to the Lonely Mountain, he lays the groundwork for their mission and makes success possible. The Meeting the Mentor stage also gives Bilbo a new safety net: Gandalf's presence, his reassuring words, and his magical abilities. However, this isn't meant to last, as the whole point is for Bilbo to grow into a spiritually fuller being. It is the moments of the wizard's absence that grant the hobbit the space to become his greater self. Crossing the Threshold. This stage encompasses the hero leaving the ordinary world behind to enter the special world and committing to the journey. Here, the hero leaves their comfort zone and runs headlong into unknown dangers. With Gandalf's encouragement, Bilbo finally answers the call and joins the company of dwarves. Bilbo actually has a couple of threshold crossings. The first occurs when Bilbo officially leaves his home at Bag End, committing to the dwarves' quest and stepping out of Hobbiton. Though he begins by dashing off without so much as a pocket handkerchief, this departure signifies a profound shift in his character. Here, Tolkien captures both the thrill and anxiety of the first steps into the unknown, a theme as universal as could possibly be. But the real, more visceral crossing comes shortly afterward, when Bilbo encounters the trolls who have stolen the company's ponies in the night. This encounter forces Bilbo to confront both literal dangers and his own inadequacies as he tries to be a burglar for the first time. Discovering the trolls and nearly being cooked for supper is Bilbo's first brush with near-death experiences, and it's here that the stakes really sink in. And yet, it's also here that Bilbo gains his first boon, the elven dagger that will later become his iconic sword, Sting. This weapon is an excellent archetypal symbol of Bilbo's first triumph and the glory that he will later achieve. By acquiring Sting, he now has both a means of protecting himself and a physical reminder of his entry into the heroic realm. Tests, allies, and enemies. This is a series of challenges where the hero must overcome the odds with the help of the mentor, friends, special objects, and wits. Here, the hero learns the rules of the special world by trial and error. More allies may be earned, and often more enemies as well. Once Bilbo has crossed into the unknown, his resolve, cleverness, and courage are all tested. Here, he's confronted with escalating dangers and trials that force him to adapt and grow. This phase in The Hobbit doesn't happen all at once. Instead, it's woven throughout the entire story, showing us a Bilbo who hones his skills and confidence. One of the most iconic tests comes with Bilbo's encounter with Gollum in the depths of the Misty Mountains. Lost and desperate, Bilbo faces the froggy creature in a deadly game of riddles, a battle of wits that puts his life on the line. The stakes are real. If Bilbo fails, he's going to become Gollum's next meal. This scene also marks the moment when Bilbo acquires the One Ring, a magical artifact that will both help and haunt him in ways he can't yet imagine. The riddle game he plays with Gollum is a foreshadowing of the cleverness he will need to combat the dragon Smaug, and so it is an apt test of intelligence. However, once he wins and Gollum realizes Bilbo has taken the ring, Bilbo is faced with perhaps the greatest moral test of the story. Bilbo escapes Gollum by using his new ring to turn invisible, and he is faced with the opportunity to kill the wretch. However, he stays his hand. Gollum had no sword. Gollum had not actually threatened to kill him, or tried to yet. And he was miserable, alone, lost. A sudden understanding, a pity mixed with horror, welled up in Bilbo's heart. A glimpse of endless, unmarked days, without light or hope of betterment. Hard stone, cold fish, sneaking and whispering. All these thoughts passed in a flash of a second. He trembled. This is another excellent foreshadowing of the grace of heart Bilbo will need at the end of his journey to save the souls of many. And here, he is not only morally triumphant for the moment, but his action proves to be the forerunner of victory in The Lord of the Rings, as Gollum ends up being the divinely ironic key to ending Sauron's reign. Throughout The Hobbit, Bilbo also earns allies in unexpected places. He befriends the dwarves, gradually proving his worth to the initially skeptical Thorin Oakenshield, who comes to recognize his bravery. He earns the admiration of Beorn, the skin changer who offers them shelter and guidance. He even wins the respect of the giant eagles, who swoop down to rescue the company in moments of dire need. Of course, no adventure would be complete without enemies. Goblins, wargs, giant spiders, and even the wood elves stand in Bilbo's way, with each new conflict adding to the tension and excitement of the story. Bilbo has the fighting spirit to fend off the spiders in Mirkwood, and then the wits to escape the confines of the elves' dungeon by a sneaky barrel trip. Every encounter forces him to think quickly and act bravely, and each one prepares him for the greater trials that lie ahead. These episodes are all so fun and build momentum and suspense, ensuring that the stakes remain high with each passing chapter. As we follow Bilbo through these tests, we're reminded of the push and pull of tension that drives compelling storytelling. Tolkien keeps readers on edge by allowing Bilbo to achieve small victories only to confront him with greater challenges. This pendulum of setbacks and then triumphs gives The Hobbit its page-turning quality. By the way, if you're interested in another story that closely follows the hero's journey, then my own fantasy novel, The Agra Saga, features a hero who gains a magic sword and the help of a mystic horse, travels to the underworld and back, and faces a terrible evil, all to try to break a curse on his beloved and save his country from being overthrown. It follows many of the beats of the hero's journey with a few shocking twists, so you may like it. Link is in the description. Approach to the inmost cave. At this point, the hero prepares to face the greatest challenge in the upcoming ordeal. There may be great training, plans, investigations, or serious manual labor involved to allow the hero to get to the greatest antagonist or source of threat to reach success. Often, this includes the hero's greatest fear. This can be a calm before the storm moment, or a point where the hero experiences great dread looking to the coming challenge. After a harrowing journey and countless trials, Bilbo and the company finally stand at the literal gate to reclaiming Erebor from Smaug. However, the path to the Lonely Mountain is perilous, and the company must endure the physical strain of the journey, the uncertainty of their mission, and their own fears as they near the lair of a creature capable of incinerating them in an instant. The first great moment of this stage in the hero's journey is the company's arrival at the secret door leading into Smaug's lair, which gives Bilbo another moment to show his attentiveness and quick thinking. Once they reach the door, they struggle to open it, and it's only Bilbo who finally realizes the way to access the mountain as he remembers Elrond's words of "Stand by the grey stone when the thrush knocks." However, the culmination of this stage is Bilbo's journey through the mountain towards Smaug's lair. I couldn't explain this part any better than how the book already presents it. It was a red light, steadily getting redder and redder. Also, it was now undoubtedly hot in the tunnel. Wisps of vapor floated up and past him, and he began to sweat. A sound, too, began to throb in his ears, a sort of bubbling like the noise of a large pot galloping on the fire, mixed with a rumble as of a gigantic tomcat purring. This grew to the unmistakable gurgling noise of some vast animal snoring in its sleep down there in the red glow in front of him. It was at this point that Bilbo stopped. Going on from there was the bravest thing he ever did. The tremendous things that happened afterwards were as nothing compared to it. He fought the real battle in the tunnel alone, before he ever saw the vast danger that lay in wait. The Ordeal. This stage is the central life or death moment, or the crisis around which the story pivots, and there is often a theme of death and rebirth. The hero confronts his greatest fear, his most demanding trial, and undergoes at least a spiritual death, where he experiences the limits of his capacities as a hero. Here, the stakes are highest, and the entire journey could fail in a moment. After death, the hero is reborn into a new mode of being. Sometimes this is a magical resurrection, other times it is a spiritual or emotional rebirth where the hero has become enlightened with insight that carries him through to the finale of his journey. In The Hobbit, the ordeal is obvious. It's Bilbo's confrontation with Smaug, the moment the smallest creature in the world stands up against the largest. As Bilbo steps into the lair, alone, he must face the sheer terror of Smaug, an immense, slumbering mass of fire and rage. When Bilbo first steals a cup from Smaug's hoard, he experiences a fleeting victory, a brief glimpse of triumph once he escapes back to the dwarves. But this success only stirs the dragon's wrath. Smaug emerges enraged, sending tremors throughout the earth. In this moment, the dwarves grumble against the hobbit, but he shows considerable wisdom and counsel and acts as a greater leader than even Thorin. And so, Bilbo re-enters the mountain to face the dragon once he is asleep. But Smaug is not asleep. And if Smaug catches him, the quest will end in ruin. But Bilbo uses all the courage and wit he has gained to make this one of the most memorable encounters in fiction. When Smaug challenges him, Bilbo doesn't answer directly, but replies in riddles to keep himself alive. "I come from under the hill, and under the hills and over the hills my paths led. And through the air I am he that walks unseen."
So I can well believe, but that is hardly your usual name.
"I am the clue finder, the web cutter, the stinging fly. I was chosen for the lucky number."
Lovely titles, but lucky numbers don't always come off.
"I am he that buries his friends alive and drowns them and draws them alive again from the water. I came from the end of a bag, but no bag went over me."
These don't sound so credible.
"I am the friend of bears and the guest of eagles. I am ring winner and luck wearer, and I am barrel rider."
That's better. But don't let your imagination imagination run away with you.
With a mix of ambiguity and flattery, Bilbo stays alive. Though Smaug is extremely clever and guesses many things about the Hobbit and his intentions. However, Bilbo spots the gap in Smaug's armor, a critical detail that will later prove crucial to the dragon's downfall at the hand of Bard the Archer. Bilbo's no longer the timid hole-dweller who left Bag End, but a hero who's overcome his fears and learned to think on his hairy hobbit feet. Reward: seizing the sword. Here, the hero survives death and is reborn into a new manner of being. With the hero's greatest fear or challenge overcome, he becomes a stronger person and will often return with a boon or prize. This prize could be a physical object or treasure, a healing solution, a secret, greater wisdom or insight, communion with a loved one, or reconciliation with an enemy, but no matter the case, the hero must steel himself for the remainder of his journey back to the ordinary world. After his terrifying ordeal with Smaug, Bilbo emerges transformed, stronger, wiser, and more courageous than ever before. Bilbo's first reward is the successful retrieval of the Arkenstone, unbeknownst to the dwarves, once Smaug has left. By taking it, he secures a boon for his friends and becomes instrumental in reclaiming Erebor for the dwarves. But there's a deeper personal reward as well. He's learned to navigate terrifying situations by thinking strategically and bolstering his heart, qualities that set him apart from the other characters. But as with many great rewards, Bilbo's success comes with its own complications. Thorin has become fixated on his treasure, making him like a new Smaug. Thorin's obsession over the Hoard blinds him to the plight of others, particularly the people of Lake Town, who desperately need resources after Smaug's attack. Thus, Bilbo hides the Arkenstone and chooses to present it when the time is right. Here, Tolkien gives Bilbo another form of wisdom, a deeper understanding of patience and how to ethically use it. Bilbo's courage and moral conviction allow him to act independently, even defying Thorin and his own dwarf friends when he senses the right course of action. He's no longer bound by the dwarves' expectations, but instead makes choices based on a mature sense of justice and compassion. The road back. This stage follows the hero moving back towards the ordinary world. The hero may not fully cross the threshold back at this stage, but there is often another great challenge lurking in the near future. There may be a great final battle or trial of will. Sometimes the greatest challenge is a battle within the hero's heart. Do they satisfy their own desires, or take hold of a higher good? With the Arkenstone in hand, Bilbo is in a unique position of power. He could easily keep the stone, but he's faced with a moral dilemma. Should he act out of loyalty to the dwarves, who are technically his allies, or consider a higher good? Thorin and the dwarves have been taken by a similar greed that Smaug embodied, and they refuse to aid the people of Lake Town. Watching Thorin's greed take hold and seeing the suffering around him, Bilbo knows he has to make a difficult choice. In another deeply courageous move, Bilbo gives the Arkenstone to Bard, the leader of the Lake Town survivors, hoping it will be used as leverage to bring peace rather than war. In doing so, Bilbo acts in a way that defies Thorin's trust, but he knows that it's the right thing to do. Gandalf even praises Bilbo for his wisdom.
Well done, Mr. Baggins,
he said, clapping Bilbo on the back.
There is always more about you than anyone expects.
It was Gandalf. For the first time for many a day, Bilbo was really delighted. This is high praise indeed coming from Gandalf in this moment, and the one source of validation that Bilbo truly needs. He's grown from a reluctant adventurer into a hero who sees the larger picture and values the well-being of all involved, not just his own desires or loyalties. Resurrection. Here, the hero is often put to the final and ultimate test and transformed completely. The day is won, the bounty is gathered, and the hero is renewed with gifts to share with the wider world. For Bilbo, This test comes when he admits to Thorin how Bard came into possession of the Arkenstone. This enrages his friend, but Thorin ultimately agrees to trade 1/14 of the hoard for the stone, which is the amount of Bilbo's original share. However, goblins and wargs storm the roots of the Lonely Mountain, and the climactic Battle of the Five Armies takes place. The battle erupts between the men, elves, and dwarves on one side and the forces of darkness on the other. In this chaotic fray, Bilbo doesn't charge into combat with a sword drawn, but instead watches the larger struggle unfold near Gandalf. However, fate doesn't let him escape unscathed. A blow from a falling stone knocks him unconscious, symbolically killing him for the duration of the battle. This moment of unconsciousness acts as a form of symbolic death for Bilbo. When he awakens, Bilbo learns that among the casualties is Thorin, who lies mortally wounded after the fight. In this somber reunion, Thorin has a moment of clarity and courage of his own. He recognizes his errors, particularly his greed and stubbornness, and asks Bilbo for forgiveness. This interaction serves as a resurrection of the spirit for both Thorin and Bilbo. Thorin, humbled at last, passes away as a repentant with a sense of peace and reconciliation, while Bilbo is granted the role of forgiver. Bilbo knelt on one knee, filled with sorrow. "Farewell, King under the mountain. This is a bitter adventure, if it must end so, and not a mountain of gold can amend it. Yet, I am glad that I have shared it in your perils. That has been more than any Baggins deserves."
No, there is more in you of good than you know, child of the kindly West. Some courage and some wisdom, blended in measure. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. But sad or merry, I must leave it now. Farewell.
Then Bilbo turned away, and he went by himself and sat alone, wrapped in a blanket. And, whether you believe it or not, he wept until his eyes were red and his voice was hoarse. He was a kindly little soul. Bilbo entered this journey as an unassuming hobbit, reluctant and unsure, but now he's become a hero of rare compassion and wisdom, offering consolation even to dying kings. Return with the elixir. The hero at last returns home to the original, ordinary world. However, now the hero bears gifts from the special world to transform the ordinary world. These gifts or boons may be transformative on a completely personal level, but they are often used for the benefit of the hero's community or wider world. This stage marks Bilbo's return to Hobbiton, bringing with him gifts from the world beyond his own. He returns without his complete share, only 2 small chests, one filled with silver and the other with gold, such as one strong pony could carry, as well as his mithril shirt and sting. More importantly, Bilbo brings back a just heart, courage, wisdom, and generosity that sets him apart from other hobbits, including his old self. When Bilbo arrives home, his neighbors, assuming he died, have begun auctioning off his belongings. In a twist of irony, they've become a bit like little dragons, greedy and eager to snatch up anything valuable. This scene humorously reflects how much he's outgrown the narrow-minded ways of the Shire, and his old self is truly dead, as the hobbits presumed. The elixir that Bilbo has returned with are the qualities that he has gained in his resurrected self, and they become invaluable in the years to come. When The Lord of the Rings begins, we see that Bilbo's journey has prepared him to raise a hero in the young Frodo and act as mentor and guide to him. Moreover, Bilbo, with the pronounced urging of Gandalf, has the prudence, humility, and faith to leave the ring behind when almost no other creature could do so. We must not overlook the importance Bilbo's journey has for the fate of all the world. And through this final stage, Tolkien leaves us with the reminder that adventures change us in spirit. and that the best journeys leave us with the gifts we can share with others. Gandalf sums everything up in the end rather well.
You don't really suppose, do you, that all your adventures and escapes were managed by mere luck, just for your sole benefit? You are a very fine person, Mr. Baggins, and I am very fond of you. But you are only quite a little fellow in a wide world after all.
Thank goodness, said Bilbo, laughing, and handed him the tobacco jar. The hero's journey provides a psychologically rich framework for understanding character development and narrative structure. Remember that this tool is descriptive, not prescriptive. I would recommend trying it out in order first, but then you can swap, omit, or add stages to suit your own story. If you'd like to support me in this channel, then please pick up a copy of the Agra Saga and let me know what you think. Bilbo Baggins is an excellent main character who undergoes significant growth that people of all ages can relate to. If you want to dive deeper into what makes a masterful main character, then check out my video on Ged from A Wizard of Earthsea that's up on screen now. And until next time, Godspeed and happy writing.